Welcome back. Well, a major anniversary on the Korean Peninsula as both the North and the South mark the start of the Korean War, which started 67 years ago in North Korea. A mass rally was held in Pyongyang to mark the day. The war began on June 25th, 1950, when troops from the North launched a surprise attack. A conflict that ended in a truce, but without a peace treaty. Well, in South Korea, thousands of war veterans, government officials and civilians attended a ceremony in Seoul. The Prime Minister urged North Korea to put an end to its nuclear program. But our next guest says trying to talk to the Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un is a waste of time. Former CIA analyst Sumi Terry co-authored an editorial in the Washington Post about secret talks with North Korea earlier this month. She was part of a group of delegates from the US, Japan, China and South Korea who met with representatives of North Korea in Sweden. Now, Terry writes there were no signals of flexibility or willingness to negotiate on these, meaning the North's nuclear and ballistic missile programs. And she goes on to say, our North Korean interlocutors presented a stark choice. First, accept us as a nuclear state. Then we are prepared to talk about a peace treaty or fight. We are ready for either. Well, Sumi Terry comes to us now from CNN New York. It's really good to have you with us on this. It's certainly incredible that you were there as a representative at these secret talks. You said they were a waste of time. Was there any sign that they were going to be receptive to negotiations?
Absolutely no sign, no willingness to talk about denuclearization, to talk about getting rid of North Korea's nuclear program. They said, we can talk once you accept us as a nuclear power, then we can talk about a peace treaty formally ending the Korean War, which means really kicking the U.S. forces out of the Korean Peninsula, out of South Korea. But on the nuclear program, there was zero possibility for talks.
So I also want to bring up another thing you said in this piece, which was in our talks, the North Korean officials emphasized that they did not struggle to acquire nuclear weapons, only to perish without using them. You went on to say the implied threat was clear. If the United States were to use military force against North Korea, Pyongyang would retaliate. Now, we do know that the U.S. is currently undergoing an upgrade of its own nuclear arsenal, spending $28 billion this year. Did they raise that or make that point during these conversations?
Well, they raised the point that if we are to threaten North Korea militarily at all, they are willing to preemptively use nuclear weapons because, again, as I mentioned in the paper, they said we didn't go through all this struggle through sanctions and dealing with sanctions and all this of acquiring nuclear weapons just to not use it and perish without using them. So they didn't say they would preemptively use it for no reason at all, but if they felt threatened that we were going after them either for regime change or some sort of military strike, they are willing to use nuclear weapons to deal with us, which was quite scary, I have to say, yes.
Really scary. The other issues, of course, is the detainment of Americans. Obviously, these talks happened before they released Otto Warmbier, before he passed away here in the U.S. Upon coming home. Yes. Was that discussed, or was the other 3 Americans still detained discussed?
No, we did not discuss that at all. It's only after I came back from the talks I learned that Warmbier was released in a coma state and then, of course, subsequently passed away. We didn't talk about that.
So you mainly spoke about nuclear weapons. And if North Korea is not willing to negotiate, why did they want to meet with you?
Well, they're willing to say, we will negotiate if you just accept us as a nuclear state. So they wanted to make that point clear. We will meet with you in the future, and we are willing to work with you, but not about nukes. They wanted to make a point that we are already a nuclear power, where we as in North Korea, they're so close to perfecting the nuclear weapons program that they're unwilling to talk about that anymore, but they're willing to talk about peace treaty if the United States accept North Korea as a nuclear state. I will also have to tell you, we did talk about the Korean War a little bit. You were just mentioning about the Korean War. they're still talking about United States invading or initiating the Korean War. So if you can't even agree on the most basic facts of history, you see how how difficult it is for us to even talk about their nuclear program.
Yeah, I can only imagine how those conversations went. Of course, President Trump has mentioned in the past that he would meet the North Korean leader. Did that come up at all? Did they say anything about President Trump or have any advice?
Well, they wanted to hear what the U.S. position is because, as you mentioned, Mr. Trump has said a number of things. The United States have sent conflicting signals. We said we'll meet with them. Well, Mr. Trump said he's honored to meet with Kim Jong-un at some point. And then we talked about even military strikes. So, of course, from North Korean perspective, United States policy is somewhat confusing. So they wanted clarification.
So just quickly, where did the talks end? Are you going to meet again?
We will eventually meet again at some point in the future, but talks ended, where we said, well, we just have to agree to disagree. This is your position, this is our position, and this is the cards that we have to play, unfortunately. And there's now no willingness by either side to really move forward to resolve this issue.
Yeah, it sounds very frustrating.
Deadlock. Very, very frustrating.
All right, Sumi, Terry, great to have you on this program. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on. Thank you.